Hey guys, so essentially I wanted to do a video highlighting every single thing I've done to this car. I've been wanting to do one forever, but I keep kind of doing things every couple of weeks, every month. Something's always different. But I'm getting rid of this car tomorrow. This is my last day with it. I actually have all the stock parts in the hatch right now. Trading it for something really cool. I'll be doing videos of it because it's definitely a car worth showing. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show stuff about this car because for some people that maybe want to do crazy camber like this or get as low as this on coils and not bags, I mean, maybe this could be a help for you. I really don't care. I mean, if it helps you, it helps you. If it doesn't, I mean, just look at this thing, whatever. So to start off, it's an 11WX. It's just a premium hatch, so it has the heated seats, heated wipers, sunroof, etc., etc. It has Broadway static coils, which are 5-inch 41K springs, which is about 2,300 pounds per inch in imperial standards. Yeah, this is how low it sits and drives. I mean, the fronts right now, this fender is really fucked up, but I'll go over that later. The fronts right now, essentially they touch like non-stop while driving. And it sounds really bad, but whatever. I mean, I've had it like this for like maybe 3 weeks. Here too. So yeah, the fenders have been fucked up. That was so much from when I was running coilovers that were just like super standard Fortunatos that were 8K springs, so they traveled a crazy amount. And essentially, I had a fatter tire. I had a 225/40 on a 10. These are 215/35s on a 10. If you really want to get low, going to a 35 profile tire really helps a lot. It'll literally drop the car maybe like a good ½ inch, if anything. People don't really realize that, but these are like super thin. They actually show a bit of barrel, to be honest. Well, some of them do. It's weird, but yeah. I've cracked this specific wheel twice in the same exact spot because, as you can see from here, the barrel is literally almost touching the ground. So if there's any uneven surface at all, it essentially just hits the barrel. And the barrels are already really chewed up, but surprisingly they haven't cracked. Like, these things should have cracked so many times already, but I've only gotten one crack, which I took to a shop, which said like a really shitty weld on it supposedly, because it cracked like right down the middle of the weld, and then I got it welded by like a really good shop, and it's been good so far, although I haven't really even driven the car that much since then. I'm missing the fender piece here, which I think I did a video where one of them I actually it's on the other side. This little thing, it pops out. Essentially it pops out really easily. I don't want to do it, but yeah. The other piece, it wasn't in there good enough, I guess. It fell off while I was on the highway, and my friend found it like an hour later because he ran it over with his Civic and he was dragging it along the road. This car does have 2 spacers on it right now, because these are 18x10 plus 14, and with the spacers, which are like 50 millimeters, it's -36, and that's all around, rear end, front. Essentially, I got these wheels for like a pretty cheap price. Like, they're only like $1,600, which is like pretty cheap for 3-piece wheels from VR Wheels. And I was gonna re-lip and re-barrel them over winter, like in the upcoming months, but as you can see, I'm kind of getting rid of the car. So essentially I made up for it with spacers. They're really good quality spacers. They're like, the first one is a 5x100. It's a 25 millimeter. And they're hub centric to 56.1. And the second one is a 25 millimeter 5x100 to 5x114 adapter. That's also hub centric. And they're high grade aluminum quality and everything, but that's all around like that too. I have maybe like 2,000-3,000 miles on that setup with the spacers. Wheel bearings are still good, axles are still good, although I feel like they might be starting to leak, especially in the front, because there's a lot of like grease everywhere if you take it apart. The rears are pretty solid. I haven't really seen anything, but essentially, to get the camera from me, I'll start with the rears. But a lot of people, what they do is they actually do this arm down here, which is called the lower control arm. I mean, it's super dark, so you can't even see it, but that's the lower control arm, and most people, they have that, and it essentially just pushes out the bottom of the hub, but that only goes to -9 before it actually pops the axle out because it's pushing from the bottom. I skipped that, and I went with an upper control arm, which you can't really see there, but that's my spring right there. The upper control arm is made by Dominant Engineering. It was a good price, I believe, like with tow arms, local pickup, since I live near him, it was $750, and the tow arms are very, very adjustable. And essentially it's just it's like a tie rod end with a lock nut, and you can just keep spinning it in, and it pulls it from the top of the hub. And with that, you can get to -20 without ever ripping the axle out or anything like that. So it's a lot better instead of dealing with the lower control arm stuff. Let's see. And then for the front camber, I have let me show you the camber plates. The camber plates are nothing crazy at all, to be honest, which is essentially a good thing, because some people, they do a lot of like sketchy shit in the sense of camber plates. So essentially it's a normal Broadway static camber plate that's negative all the way out. It's pretty beat up because when I do adjust it, I just hammer it all the way to one side. But essentially, like, I believe normal camber plates, they're a bit shorter, but this one has actually really good adjustability. If you really wanted to, you could take this to a machine shop and have these holes and this slotted a bit further if you wanted more negative camber. But the thing is, the issue I ran into, which if you're on bags you don't have to worry about, is that when you drive really low, the hub is much, well, like when you're low like this, the hub is much closer to the transmission, because the lower you go, the closer the hub moves to the actual transmission. So the axle begins to you know, get more and more pushed into itself. That's not a problem when you have zero camber, but when you're, if I was literally this low and I had like -7 degrees or -8 degrees, it started to bind the axle, where essentially it's just like pushing itself into its other, and it's preventing it from spinning freely. So that was a huge issue with it. So essentially I got the lower control arms right here. I got them cut and welded and extended about by 1 inch. So it essentially pushed the bottom of the hub outwards, giving the axle a lot more room. And then on top of it, the actual coilover, which is right here, you can kind of see it. It's slotted as much as it can. Like, there's 2 holes on it where the knuckle goes in between. The top one is cut as deeply as possible into it, so therefore you can pivot the entire hub. And you have to tighten it really hard though. You have to use an impact gun for the most part to tighten it. And then the bottom bolt is also a smaller bolt than normal. It has camber bolts up and on top of the strut and below the strut. The bumper is like really messed up. I had to literally bend this thing outwards, because when I turned, this tire actually took this thing and it bent it all the way inward. And these are super thin tires too, like with a crazy stretch. So if I had like normal, which is like 225/35 on a 10, it would have done even worse. But I had to cut the inside of the bumper completely out. And I got these stupid things. Like, I really don't like quick releases, in all honesty. I should have gone in the one that's just a button over here that connects to a prong. But these honestly hold the bumper really well, because before the bumper used to pop out all the time. Like, I know it's not the best thing. Like, I don't really like it visually. I mean, I kind of got these spikes because I thought they'd look cooler, but I mean, they're kind of shit either way, whichever one you get. The bumper itself is like, it's just a regular C-type lip from eBay that's like $60. It has like a rattle can spray paint job on it, so the paint obviously is cracked, almost all of it, because this thing literally does bash the ground all the time, because this is how low it sits and this is how low it drives and everything on the highway. And I'm not really gentle with driving. I don't really slow down for dips or anything, so like I hit dips at like full speed. I don't really care. But because of that, I have cracked the paint here. There's a lot of stress cracks all over the place that you can find. And this was a new bumper too. Like, this is a freshly painted bumper that I got maybe like 4 months ago, or maybe 3 months ago, when the car was still on the old wheels. So that really covers it for the car height and everything. Broadway statics is the key to really being low on these cars, because if you try to lower it on normal coils, the strut goes too far down, and it essentially ends up hitting the CV boot and it rubs through it. So the way to prevent that is Broadway static coilovers. The strut that actually screws in there, it's much shorter, so you can be this low. Actually, this car, camber makes it lower, so essentially if I didn't have the camber, it would be a lot higher, but it still can go really low. Like how it's sitting right now, I can still go like another 2 inches lower, which is possible if I remove the lip and if I added more camber to tuck these more, had less aggressive wheels, because it would the frame rails still have like half an inch till they touch the ground on the sides, because they're grinded down pretty hard. The exhaust, if you guys remember, I actually had a blast pipe setup where it was just basically a straight pipe, and it had these huge, like, obnoxious pipes that came out the left side. I was driving and there was a manhole cover, and that was like raised 2 inches, and I straight up like ripped it from like the flex pipe, which is around here, back, and the thing was just laying in the middle of the road, and I picked it up, threw it in the hatch. I took a Dremel to it and I cut off the blast pipe so I can reuse it or sell it or something, and the rest of it I just threw out. It's open down pipe right now, so I've only driven it like 5 times with open down pipe, and it vibrates everything in the inside like crazy, essentially. Performance wise, this car is pretty, I mean, I don't know how much power it has, maybe like low to mid 300 wheel horsepower. I don't know. I don't really want to say a number because it's never been on a dyno, because it couldn't get on one because it would beach on the rollers. But essentially it has a lot of leaves in it actually. But it has an intake, a cob intake, which is smushed in between the intercooler piping, which is really loose. They don't have any mounts, so it is going to be this loose. Cob intake, short ram, the basic one that's $200. Has a heat shield, the Cobb heat shield. This is all painted with like Pep Boys magenta paint, which is like $8 a can. Has a Turbo XS front mount intercooler setup. Has a plate thing there. Has a plate thing for that, but I took it off because when I take off the bumper, I had to take it off to zip tie these. So I just take off the bumper so much I didn't bother. It has a Grimspeed 3-port access solenoid, the electronic boost control solenoid, which essentially just transfers it from a 2-port, which is connected with, one goes to the intake and one goes to the wastegate / turbo inlet. Instead, there's 3 ports, so one port is wastegate, one port is turbo inlet, and the other port is the intake. So it manages spool up much better, and it has a NVIDIA catless downpipe, and then it has the Go Fast Spits hybrid thing, which is like, it could be either full atmosphere where all the stuff go out of it, or if you turn this one of the ways, this way, it makes a diverter, which essentially just puts it through this pipe back into the intake like stock is. But I have it on full atmosphere because I'm a racer, and it backfires like crazy because of it. So that's it for performance. I have a Torque Performance E-Tune, so it's really straightforward. That's really it. For the people that ask about the one wiper, it's basically a free thing that you can do. Honestly, it doesn't cost anything. You essentially it might be a 14mm. You pop off this thing, and it has a 14mm. So you take off the normal one that's on the passenger side, and you just, it's in the house right now, or it's in the hatch right now. But and then you take the driver's side, which is normally in there. That's where the motor is, right there, this little thing. And you just take the driver's side one, and you put it on this, and you angle it upwards. Usually this angle is perfect because when it comes over, it usually, as you can see by this mark, it comes right there, like right here to the corner. Because if it's any more up, it would go over this thing. But yeah, I mean, I like it. You can still see very fine in the rain and whatnot. Other than that, I mean, that sounds nasty. Other than that, I mean, the interior straightforward. It's just like a Star Wars decorated interior with the keys, racing wheel with a Momo short hub, lightsaber shift knob, has a Cobb short shifter on it, I think. Yeah. I don't know what else this car really has. It's like important. I mean, it has side skirts that have like some Galvez things, but I bolted them so they stick out like crazy. And this part is actually unbolted because from hitting something, it took off the thing. I have a blacktop arrow wing that I rattle canned, as you can tell by the texture or the reflection compared to the rest of the paint. It was like $600, and the centerpiece is real carbon fiber, and it actually has a third brake light right here, which most of them do not. So I wanted a third brake light so it can stay kind of legal at least. Other than that, it's really straightforward. I mean, I'll start up the car so you can hear it. I mean, open down pipe. It's not really pleasant or anything. It just vibrates everything inside like crazy. Has a Cobb Access Port V2 just to monitor boost and stuff like that. Pretty loud. It's very loud when driving. The backfire is extremely loud. You feel it. It's like a big punch to your butt, I guess. That's really it. I mean, yeah. I mean, and then the Star Wars interior, which I showed in the last video, I think, or one of the videos, I don't know. But it's essentially comic book strips that I cut up, and I use something called Mod Podge. It's a really weird thing to say, but it acts as a glue and a clear coat. So I essentially just cut up the pieces, as you can see, where it divides, like these like tiny little squares. It did wrinkle because it's paper, and I've had this for like almost a year, I think. Actually, yeah, I did this in December of last year, so yeah, I've had it for almost a year. And it does wrinkle from the sun and stuff, but I kind of like the wrinkle only because like it makes it feel like it's paper mache and stuff, which I mean I like it. I understand some people don't like that type of stuff. They want things to be smooth, but whatever. And yeah, it's just cut the little strips, you know, from different pages. It's glued on, and then I clear coated it like with 5 layers. So if you do spill something or anything like that, it kind of protects it from the water getting soggy. So yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, that's this car, basically. I mean, I don't really know what else there is to say about it. I mean, the rear seats were deleted, but I can't really show you that. But essentially, that's all it really is. I actually forgot was these quality Spectate lights, as you can see, because one LED is on and the other one isn't. It's really weird, but it actually works if you turn on the regular headlights. I don't know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I don't really run them. I don't really run them as daily driving lights. I usually just run them as like this, or like the full thing is on like that. Oh, I can totally see what's wrong now. It's the actual beam right here that's actually burnt out. Oh, well, that's great. It's great to fucking hear. Oh well. Yeah, Spectate lights, they're great quality. I mean, I'm kidding, obviously, but I've had them for maybe like a year. Same thing with the hood too, because I rear-ended someone very lightly, and I smashed that headlight, and I smashed the hood a bit. So I just got those 2 things to replace it. Spectate headlights, I mean, that kind of speaks for its own quality. But essentially, this one, I did retrofit the H11s, which I did a video on. It was a really poor video, but it showed you a bit of what I did to them. But they look really cool, because that's another thing that people ask me about this car is the headlights. And it's just simply Spectate, and I took them apart, and this is chrome, everything is chrome, so I painted everything black because it looks a lot better. I mean, it looks really cool when the headlights aren't on, but obviously I can't even show you because this one is like totally blown now. But that's really it about the car. I mean, you know, I had a really good time like building or doing whatever the hell I did to this car. I've had it for like almost 2 years because I got it in February of 2015. Yeah, so I've almost had it for 2 years, like a year and like 9 months, I guess. But yeah, my next car that I'm getting tomorrow is I'm trading this for is actually pretty interesting. It's really rare in America. Not the car itself, but what it is, the type of engine that it has, and the type of car. So yeah, I'll definitely have a lot of fun with that. But in the time being, I mean, this is my car. I really spoke about everything to make it the way it is and whatnot. And essentially, I mean, I don't really know what else there is to talk about it. But if anyone like has any questions about anything I really did to this car, I mean, like, you know, I don't really hide anything about this car. I'll like legit tell you how to make a car like this if you really care about it enough, if it's your thing. But yeah, that's, I mean, essentially that's this car, and I guess I'm done with it. Off to new adventures with it, with a different car. So yeah, I mean, you'll see the new car in the next video.